While the legendary Japanese warrior caste of the samurai has been an inspiration to countless fighters across combat sports, very few have taken their teachings and mentality to the level of Jiří Procházka. The UFC light heavyweight champion is one of the most destructive forces in the octagon, with a truly unique fighting style that represents something traditional martial arts have always sought, the union of mind and body. Jiří's story is a testament to how control over one's own mind can turn every life around. Today we follow a troubled young Czech boy on his journey to becoming a modern-day samurai and a UFC champion. Jiří Procházka was a wild young guy that few could have imagined would become one of the most disciplined athletes on the planet. Born in the Czech Republic, and having lost his father when he was just 6, Jiří was always looking for trouble everywhere he went. He always had an affinity for sports, and rode BMX and played amateur football, but fighting was always on his mind, and he fought in many street fights before eventually finding his way to the hooligan scene, and starting to support the local football team with his fists. Like so many others, he found a way to release the built-up aggression by training in martial arts. His new outlet pulled him away from hooliganism, and in 2011, Jiří was crowned the Czech Muay Thai national champion. In the following year, Jiří started fighting professionally in MMA, and his natural instincts and power brought him fast KO victories. But in his own words, he felt like he was drowning and fighting terrified, just trying to survive. What would drastically change Procházka's character and channel his wild, destructive energy was his MMA training and a fundamental book called The Book of Five Rings, written by the legendary Japanese swordsman Miyamoto Musashi. Each page and each fight would transform Jiří into a living embodiment of the principles outlined by Musashi, which have been followed by both real samurais and warriors around the world and modern fighters alike. The recurring theme of Jiří's story is the inward journey of self-understanding through various mental practices and extreme levels of physical and mental training. Jiří works on his mind as much as he works on his body, and all the mental work is paying off. He has been a hurricane inside the octagon with a truly unique fighting style. To illustrate the level of mental training he is willing to go through, Jiří went into the Swiss Alps alone during winter and trained his jab cross for 12 hours a day. Recently, he took things to another level and spent 3 days by himself in isolation in a completely dark room without food to investigate the darker corners of his mind. Talk about dedication. Of course, all of this would mean very little if he didn't perform the way he does inside the cage. Procházka is one of the most unique and lethal fighters on the planet. But let's return to the actual fighting. Only a year and a half after his pro debut, Procházka had already fought 9 times.
Nastoupit do takedownu, ale naskočené koleno ze zadní. Má tu obranu poměrně slušnou, ale v tuhle chvíli odklepal.
Which earned him the chance to fight for the inaugural Gladiator FC Light Heavyweight Championship. Martin Sulk proved to be Jiří's toughest opponent to date, and what seemed to be heading to a judge's decision in the third turned into a flying knee straight to the jaw of his opponent.
Naskočené koleno, další 2 údery na zemi a je konec.
Jiří continued to knock his opponents out in the first round over the next 2 years, amassing a 14-2-1 record, when the next chapter of his career and life began with an invitation to compete in Japan for the Rizin organization. The land of the rising sun was the perfect place for his pursuit to become the perfect warrior, not just simply an athlete. Denisa, as his old nickname, entered the 2015 Rizin Grand Prix at heavyweight and fought 3 times in 2 days. He introduced himself to the Japanese audience by viciously knocking out one of their favorite fighters, Satoshi Ishii. On the next day, he faced Vadim Nemkov and the fight would prove much tougher than the one against Ishii. But after a grueling 10-minute round, Nemkov was unable to continue. And in the final of the tournament, he would suffer his last loss to date at the heavy hands of King Mo Lawal.
Right on the chin as he was coming in. A great job by King Mo.
Jiří continued competing in Rizin for the next 2.5 years, with the odd home country appearance in 2017, and defeated 7 opponents, 6 of whom in the first round.
Now, 20 seconds ago, he drops him. It's hair flying everywhere.
It's over.
The referee says that is enough.
Walk into it.
Oh, Procházka's taking a shot.
He
drops him. Bobby and Weedy uses for rookie, drops him again.
You have him hurt. He will ruin you.
It's over, Frank. I wasn't even. His resolve. Procházka, a beautiful right hand. Keep putting the pressure on. Another right, left, right. Landed again. That's it. It's over. The referee has had enough. Chasing his opponent down the mat underneath the armpit. Dangerous stuff here. This could be it. It's over. It is all over.
During this time, Procházka continued his never-ending journey of mastering his own psyche, as well as honing his martial arts skills. Here we can highlight another thing that makes Jiří unique. Whereas other fighters rely on the guidance of a head coach, Procházka believes he is the only one who can organize his entire training by meaning and intention. Of course, he has coaches that give him advice and information, which he then organizes himself. The huge improvements Jiří made, especially on the ability to improvise in fights and adapt to the opponent, became very evident in 2019 when he faced King Mo again. This time, with a Rizin light heavyweight strap on the line, Procházka was much more fluid this time around and confused Lawal with his constant feints, timings, and unorthodox strikes that kept landing. In the third round, King Mo finally went out on his shield.
King Mo's covering up. Procházka's going in there for the finish. Down goes, it's over.
In his last 2 fights for Rizin, Jiří first obliterated MMA veteran Fabio Maldonado in a catchweight bout before bidding farewell to the Japanese scene with yet another stunning first-round knockout, this time against CB Dalloway. With his Rizin contract over and his mental and physical skills in peak form, Jiří finally made his way to the UFC. Befitting a fighter of his caliber, the Czech samurai wasted no time climbing the ranks and made his debut against former title challenger Volkan Ozdemir. Jiří's fluid style and long arms got Volkan's attention, as did his traditional martial arts antics. Volkan had success in the first, and both men found the target. But early in the second, Jiří found the mark for his missile of a right and completely separated Volkan from his consciousness.
For the flying knee. Oh, there it is! Jiří Procházka! Baby boy! Welcome to the big show! Man!
Introducing himself to the UFC fan base with a brutal knockout and a performance of the night bonus. Already at number 5 in the rankings, next up for Jiří was 2-time light heavyweight title challenger Dominic Reyes. A cool fact about the instantly recognizable hairstyle of Jiří in this fight is that he calls it his war hair, and it is an homage to the Mongkon worn by Muay Thai fighters. Reyes was very game in the fight, but Procházka was on the warpath and did not let the former challenger off the hook at any moment for the entire round. Jiří was again on fire in the second stanza, but Dominic caught him and hurt him. The war was raging until Jiří exploded with a spinning elbow out of nowhere to earn him another performance bonus.
Spinning elbow puts him face first into the octagon.
Holy smokes.
I mean, look at this. Comes over with the right elbow, boom, spins with the left, connects with the point.
As electrifying as Procházka's career has been, no fight was more dramatic than his latest championship effort against Glover Teixeira. One of the most compelling championship fights in recent memory started in favor of the 42-year-old champion, who got Jiří exactly where he wanted him, on his back. but found himself in the same position as the round ended. Glover showed his championship heart and power, while Jiří relied on his creativity, as both men traded back and forth, both on the ground and on their feet. Heading into the final round, Glover was ahead on the scorecards, but the Czech samurai grasped the final opportunity he had and submitted the legendary Brazilian with just 30 seconds remaining in the fight to become the light heavyweight champion of the world.
No, but they still got it again.
The biggest MMA fighters always have charismatic personalities, and Jiří Procházka is certainly one of them. While his way is definitely not the only one to rise to the top, he certainly represents a modern incarnation of the warriors of old who dedicated their entire lives to the art of combat in all of its aspects. Some fans love the philosophical stuff, others think it's nonsense, but none can argue that the Czech samurai Jiří Procházka is one of the most dynamic and entertaining fighters on the planet.